Hello there, welcome to the notebook for the final day of the Jerez test, and if it's the final day it must mean development corner. So we're going to go through all the teams that are here. Of course there are some that aren't. So photos as usual, courtesy of Sutton Images, so thank you very much to them. Mark Sutton over here, and Patrick's also been out busy on track, but he's on track. Okay, all right, still there. So let's crack on, 'cause plenty to tell you about. Okay, let's start off with Mercedes, shall we? And I do like the neatness of this nose. It does remind me of the sort of 98, 99 McLaren, just in the way that the nose cone sort of comes down. Very different rules there, but just have a look at the simplicity of this front wing here. And then if I go back to the Mercedes, look how it's changed. I mean, I know, that's sort of 17 years or so, but it's amazing, isn't it? You just go between the front wings. Just a two main plane and one flap in 98, 99, and then 6 elements that we've got here. Much tighter rules, of course. But anyway, so a few things to point out on the Mercedes. It's the same sort of front wing concept with little upgrades, but we'll see a new front wing, I'm sure, for Australia. The point about the noses really is passing the crash test. If you can pass the crash test and keep the nose nice and short and stubby, so you only get a little overhang there over the front of the main plane, that means that part of the front wing main plane is doing more work and it's better aerodynamically. But if you don't think you can pass the crash test, then you build it either with a little sort of stubby sort of knuckle like Williams, or you build it long over the front like McLaren or Ferrari. What they've also done is they're able to make the TV cameras that we see the great shots on actually aero positive. So these are channeling air in a very nice way down into the side pods and then around the side pods to get a clean airflow to the back. Mercedes are one team, we'll just go through the McLaren again, who haven't gone with the blown front axle, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So you can see lots of lovely pictures. Oh, by the way, they've still got the Keep Fighting Michael hashtag, which is a nice thought there from Mercedes, but they've moved it from by the side of the driver's head down to a little hashtag just on the side of the nose cone. But so nice clean lines. Straight lines are good with aero paint. That's just where a mechanic has put his hand, and squiggly lines are bad. So that's working well on the Mercedes there on that brake duct. Likewise on the diffuser as well, with these little cascade winglets at the wheel hub, which is, if you've watched these things before, you know it's good efficient downforce straight at the hub. And also you can see on this shot here, JD, I don't know if you can see, so this clean line of sight, so you can see straight through. You imagine the air is coming through there. It's being channeled by these barge boards here, right around. It swirls round the car, and then it's coming out to be worked over the top of the diffuser and by these little winglets here. So it's all connected and all working very well. They were starting off from a good base, and they continue. There you can see on the wheel hub for the Mercedes, it's just the wheel nut, so it's not the hole in the front wheel nut. That's how you know whether they've got this blown front axle, as it's called, concept. But have a look with this aero paint here, the way it's very nicely being directed, straight into the side pod where it needs to be, but B, then down and round this nicely sculpted undercut section of the side pods. So it's just, the cleaner you can make the airflow around this area, the cleaner it will be to the rear of the car, and the better downforce. It's all about more downforce for less drag, and of course the cleaner you can make the airflow to the back, the better. Don't think there's anything else more on these. These there'll be new versions of these that we'll cover in the Barcelona tests and for Australia, I'm sure. But look at the attention to detail on the diffuser on the Mercedes. This is great. This is the area when you're allowed to sort of underneath the rear crash structure, you're allowed to pack it full of winglets, and they've got a monkey seat on here which you can't see, but they've got a winglet in here. Look at this little fella. He's a little, just probably only the size of your thumb really, and he's doing a little job there as well. The diffuser layout is pretty standard. It's quite similar to last year actually, but look at these. These are nice little details. So these are small, tiny little guide vanes just under the central part of the diffuser, which is kind of the most critical part of it, or one of the most critical parts of it. So that's quite interesting there. Another shot of the Mercedes diffuser. We're getting nice and tight on these, so well done, Sutton. This probably won't please Mercedes, but there you go. It informs you. There you can see the Mercedes, excuse me, the monkey seat. The box section that we saw last year So that's sort of carried over to this year. It's a concept which not many other teams have, actually. This sort of large box section we'll see when we go through. And this is a really nice bit of kit. This is their carbon fibre encased gearbox. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that. So this is the back of the car. That's the rear crash structure. And, other people run to the Mercedes gearbox, but they run with a titanium case. This is the carbon fibre case. And isn't it a thing of beauty? Of course, there's the rear axle coming out there, and just behind that bit of kit you can see where it bolts on. Well, you can't, but you can see it bolts onto the engine. So, wow, we don't see that very often. That is quite a beautiful bit of kit. Now, we covered Red Bull kind of in the bit before on the website, on the Sky Sports website. We did the decoding, the Red Bull livery. So I'll just run through it very quickly here. They've tried to hide the very nicely sculpted side pods here, so they're getting also plenty of air cleanly around the back of the car here. I'll just run through a couple of other things that I've seen there. You can see just here that's of course camouflage to make deceive the eye, but it's a sort of fighter jet style top of the side pod and then very tightly sculpted there. They have gone for the blown front axle. What that does, it's essentially an aero concept, whereas the air is taken in through the brake ducts. So you'll see big brake ducts on the Red Bull, but you won't see big brake ducts as in the big cups on the Mercedes. So it takes air through the brake ducts and then through that hole, and that hole then delivers air in a nice swirling way round to the back. There's a lot of performance in a blown front axle, but you have to start it from concept. You have to start it and then go with it for the whole of the season. You can't just, go switch later on, because then you have to change all of these conditions, all these barge boards later on down the car. So you've got to make your mind up and then go with it. But there is a lot of performance in it if you can get it right. We've already seen that one. These are interesting. There's a inbuilt infrared heat sensitive camera on the wing mirrors looking at the tyres, measuring front tyre temperature. There's another shot of it a bit later on. There you see, there's the big brake duct here, which is taking air in, blowing it out of that stub, the front axle, and then round the back of the car as well. So Red Bull have also gone with the sort of stubby nose there that you can see at the front, a bit like Williams. Right, let's keep on going. Am I going the right way here? No, I'm not. Let's carry on the right way then as we go to a bit of a closer shot of these cameras. Here you can see how tightly packaged the Red Bull is at the back. A top shot shows it off quite well, actually. That's the diffuser. I covered this the other day. Sort of airflow exits from the engine bay that McLaren kind of pioneered, but also it's very tightly shrunk to the exhaust pipe on here as well. And there it is. Look, you can see there's the infrared sensor on the wing mirror, and you can see it's pointed directly at the back of the front tyre. Third team are Williams, and they've gone with a stubby nose with a little knuckle at the front, exactly like, well, not exactly, but very much like Red Bull. And the sort of standard front wing that we've seen from last year, that will change, that will develop on, I'm absolutely sure, for Australia. At the back, I mentioned this as well, they've put some more cooling elements high up above the engine. They've got some radiators up there. Toro Rosso have also done that, so there's the inlet there for that, and they'll take some air from the engine airbox as well. They'd rather have those radiators and those coolers there and have them lower down and compromise the rear aerodynamics. Little winglet on the top of the engine cover as well, which we'll see on the Ferrari in a bit. And there's nicely sculpted and closed off back of the car that Williams do. And on their rear wing, we can see these little strakes here, which we've seen on previous Williams in the past, and a much more simple monkey seat on the Williams for whatever reason. Now the Ferrari is an interesting one. They have sort of copied Mercedes in their lower wishbone up here. Let's have a look at it, JD. It sort of comes out one bit there, and then it joins here, and then it goes and joins to the wheel in one piece, which is much better aerodynamically. It was Mercedes came up with that idea last year, and now Ferrari have copied it, and it helps apparently with Ferrari's pull rod front suspension, which making the positive change to the front of the car, which is what they suffered from last year. And also you can see what Ferrari are kind of going down the same route as Red Bull, bit of a fighter jet style side pod entrance there, and then having it tightly sculpted around the side to deliver clean airflow to the back as well. A few more shots of the Ferrari in various profiles. And there you can see a bit better, can't you, on the front suspension. Can you see there? Just comes out and then joins in a single piece down towards the wheel. They've also gone with the little camera mounts, which are aero positive. There you can see they've gone also with the blown front axle, and they've lowered the front brake caliper down to the bottom of the arrangement there. And the long nose, which passes the crash test and is okay aerodynamically if you want to go down that concept that they've had for the last year or so, have Ferrari. So it works for them. Nice shot of the diffuser as well. You can see the cooling is quite generous at the moment, but they might tighten that up if they can, and a very graceful monkey seat on the back as well. Very popular with Sebastian Vettel. He needed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people to mind him while we were asking him questions, which I thought was interesting. And he brought his dad and his brother on, and that's Fabian Vettel. He's got that sort of great sort of kid brother look to him, hasn't he, with the jeans slung low and the hoodie. Quite like that shot. Right, let's move to the McLaren, and they talk about sort of sculpted rear end. Size 0 they call it, but no one's told them that it's not healthy to be a size 0. But anyway, very sculpted rear end for exactly the reasons we've been saying earlier. Nice clean airflow, more downforce for less drag, and clean airflow to the back of the car. But interestingly, on McLaren, this new rear wishbone layout, it's quite unusual, isn't it? It's aerodynamically profiled, but it does leave them the option of bringing back the fat wishbones, if you remember them from last year, what I used to call the fat wishbones. So they've just got a lot of options to see what they want to do at the back, have McLaren. But I love that little blue finish, the early finish on the exhaust pipe before it all gets burnt off. Pretty, isn't it? Let's move to the back of the McLaren. They're giving themselves plenty of scope with cooling. That will probably shrink later on. And they've also gone with the blown front axle. Here you can just see on the front of the car as well. So that is from concept. This was a little camera, this sort of bulge or wart was a little camera there. And you can see what it's looking at, JD. It's looking at these two little targets on the inside of the front wing. So if you can imagine it, that camera looks at those two little targets, and as they bend down with the airflow, they can see how much the front wing at the end plate is actually deflecting, and then it's twisting as well. So that's what that camera is doing there. There's a new wheel rim that you'll hear about on the McLaren as well, with these little strakes on here, and a blown wheel nut that we've been talking about. Let's just rattle through the rest of them. Nice little attention to detail on the rear wing. Let's move on to the Toro Rosso. They've also chosen, like Williams, to... Oh no, what's happened here? There we go. They've chosen to take a lot of a big air intake, and then have lots of coolers at the top of the engine, because they'd rather have it there than anywhere else. But it does make for a rather big air intake. But they've got quite the most beautifully sculpted monkey seat that I've ever seen. It's a lovely bit of kit, isn't it? Lotus, they've gone with a short stubby nose on here. They haven't gone with the blown axle concept. But it's a much better car, remember what Grosjean was saying here. And they've gone also with this idea of taking lots of air through the top of the car, around the airbox, and using it to cool intercoolers or water coolers or oil coolers or electronics, whatever they want to put up there, rather than having it down in the side pods to make a bit more room. And that's the rear of the Lotus as well. Nice little packaged kit. And Romain Grosjean's just said, actually, that he feels it's a much better car than last year. And they haven't gone with the exhaust pipe. You remember that last year? It came out and then did a little kink and then came back in again. And it was a slightly offset pillar, rear wing pillar. But they haven't had to go that way this year. Now, if you have a look at compare the tightly packaged side pods that we've seen on all the top cars with the Sauber, and this does look a bit agricultural, doesn't it? So, poof, just goes straight down, much more chunky. Yes, okay, maybe they'll develop it throughout the year, but that's not what Sauber are about this year. Sauber are just about respectability, building a sound car and getting through the season, and this will certainly do the job for them. There's nothing really remarkable to speak of on the Sauber. It's just a nice bit of kit, basic bit of kit to get them back in the points, with quite the ugliest nose. It's more of a sort of platypus than all the other larger brothers, who are slightly more beautiful, but they've gone also with the air intakes out the top, but albeit with a more sort of sculpted one. Right, I think that is more or less it. It is. We're back to Mercedes. So that is Development Corner. Thank you very much for watching all these notebooks throughout the week, and the notebook will return at the Barcelona test. That's the next Formula One test. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Enjoy Sky Sports F1 Live.